U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
And the RNC was full of
President Trump, we have the greatest economy in our lifetime. America is not a racist country.
Can you imagine President Donald Trump coming to a city and calling a pastor like me?
You've probably heard a lot of people talking about Black Republicans. But
Yeah, here's the thing about the whole, like, how are we defining something being a racist country?
True.
Right? Like, it's
what is the standard?
Like, Israel, I guess, is a racist country. They have a clear policy, right? So, like, we have systemic racism. We have racists who live here. Like, what is a racist country?
Japan.
So, like, if like we have less racists because we have more integration of cultures.
I would imagine there would be a significantly lower proportion of racists in America, to be completely honest.
No,
comparatively.
Statistically, it is. But like this, it's like one of those things where it's like, how do you actually fucking measure racism?
How do you quantify it? Yeah.
So the stat is done by people who like would care if their neighbor was not the same race as them.
Yes.
And it's
done by the racists.
Well, it's like that's just a question. The Pew Research question is if you would care if your neighbor was a different race than you. So America, at least, and that's the thing, is like people might say that, but then they might also, like, every day, if they have Black neighbors, talk about how loud they are and like be offended by Black culture or something.
Yes.
You know? So it's just saying that you wouldn't care if the person who lived next to you was of a different race. Is where, and America and Ireland, which is also a lot of, Ireland has a lot of racism going on there too. If anything, Ireland's way more racist than America because they have less integration. But they also, which is funny because, you know, because they didn't ask him if it was a different religion, because then they'd be like, no, not the Protestants.
Black Republicans.
So it is with being a Black conservative. I equate it to being gay back in the 50s or 60s. You didn't come out of the closet then.
And so you look at the people who really said that about Trump. It's not no uppity Negroes. It's Negroes out the real hood.
And that's one reason why I'm pro-Trump and I'm conservative, is because I truly believe in the individualistic approach to the problems that we see within the Black community or in America as a whole.
Black Republicans specifically are some of the most disliked and unpopular political figures within the Black community for a reason. I'm pissed. Of the 4 Black Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives, zero represent majority Black districts. I'm royally pissed. In fact, they all represent majority white districts, something they seem to be very proud of.
South Carolina is majority white, correct? Yeah, it's still. My district is majority white district. Your Utah is majority white district, correct? Michigan, really. Florida, is your district majority white district? Well, how do we get here?
Like, a lot of white people had to vote for it.
Oh my God.
There is an obvious disconnect, and that's what I want to explore today. I wanted to know what draws a Black person to identify with this Republican Party.
Trump has been for Black people, regardless of what the media say, for a long time.
The Bible says we perish through a lack of knowledge, right? So until you teach the people, that's the only way they're going to learn. So it's our job, me especially as a Black conservative, to get out there, get on the ground, and teach these people all about the Black conservative movement. And when you look at the movement now, especially right now, we speaking, baby.
I learned a lot about Black Republicans in these conversations. Their motivations, their stories, their goals. These are real people with genuinely held beliefs. Beliefs that I largely disagree with, and I told them as much.
It wasn't policy. It was white people.
It wasn't white people.
It was no. Let's be very clear. It was white people. No.
I tried to have respectful dialogue with them. So in this video, I want to share these people with you. But I also share some of my reflections on the experience of listening to, fact checking, and disagreeing.
I'm actually very excited to see this video.
With Black Republicans. I learned a lot about Black Republicans, and I think you will too. So with that, let's dig in. In talking to Black Republicans, I found that their most consistent ideological North Star was an emphasis on personal responsibility. For those I spoke to, there was a real value for rigid individualism as opposed to collective progress and identity. Take Topher, for example. He's a Christian rapper, has millions of followers online, and believes, according to him, in an individualistic approach to progress for Black people.
And that's one reason why I'm pro-Trump and I'm conservative, is because I truly believe in the individualistic approach to the problems that we see within the Black community or in America as a whole. If you can think about it, Black Wall Street, Harlem Renaissance, all that time, we was doing great. But when the policies came in and started destroying the Black community slowly and slowly, matter of fact, it was supposed to get rid of poverty or at least lessen it, but we have more poverty now than we had back then.
I think you'll notice a theme of dissonance present in these interviews. On the one hand, for example, Topher endorses an individualistic approach to solving the problems we face as a community. But on the other hand, he points to Black Wall Street or the Harlem Renaissance, communities that I would consider on the Mount Rushmore of Black collective power. And he points to them as times we should look back on with admiration. The question is, which one is it? Is it rigid individualism where we get it out of the mud on our own? Or is it about creating communities where we work together to build our collective resources? What's also interesting is that somehow for him...
See, I don't think this is that strange. I think this is pretty standard for conservative thinking. I think this is just conservative thinking. It goes against natural, like what you should really come to the natural conclusion. You've had a guided conclusion given to you. And that's how you get to that point. Like, but this, yeah, like the people that killed Black Wall Street are the people that they're supporting. Like, I don't understand how they can sit there with this dissonance.
These communities no longer exist because of liberal or progressive policy decisions.
But when the policies came in and started destroying the Black community slowly and slowly, matter of fact, it was supposed to get rid of poverty or at least lessen it, but we have more poverty now than we had back then.
I think it's worth pointing out that this more poverty now than back then line is verifiably false. It falls in line with a theme that people like Byron Donalds have advanced continuously throughout this election cycle. The idea that we were better off in any way during the Jim Crow era.
During Jim Crow, the Black family was together.
Yeah, that's right.
During Jim Crow, more Black people were not just conservative. Black people always have been conservative minded, but more Black people voted conservatively.
It's worth noting that the Black poverty rate has been falling ever since Black people started receiving civil rights protections. It's almost as if these progressive policies worked.
Now, you mentioned Black Wall Street, brother, and I want to be very real with you.
Yeah.
Black Wall Street was Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood District, where Black people built their own community, had their own self-sustained community, beautiful economy, making it for themselves, and white people destroyed it. Yeah. It wasn't policy. It was white people.
It wasn't white people. It was
no. Let's be very clear. It was white people. No.
It was those white people.
It was white people in that community. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And let me just say this: Elaine, Arkansas, Rosewood in Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Sweet Auburn District, North Nashville, and Nashville, Tennessee. Each one of these communities were booming Black economies where white people, not in the same place, but it was the same group of people every time, destroyed those communities. So you can't say it's policy when when Black people do what they need to do and build for themselves, and white people destroy it. Yeah. So why is it that you would frame it as a policy thing?
I didn't frame it as a policy thing.
We can rewind it.
You said it was white people.
You mentioned.
I said it wasn't white people. It was those white people. And the reason why I'm saying that is because now we're trying to categorize all white people as evil. No. And what I'm trying to say is back then, because a lot of people don't know this, I'm gonna put this on record. Black Wall Street rebuilt themselves after that. 4 years after that, Black Wall Street rebuilt everything they had, and they prospered for the next 40 years until policy.
Never happened before. Have I gotten him to come out of his bucket?
What do you mean?
Like on stream like that? I've tried to flip him out of his bucket, and this time I did kind of grab him, but he came halfway out and I grabbed him and forced him out. And he wanted to back in, and he was a little panicky, but
he came in and destroyed it because they decided to build a freeway over the town, and that destroyed. So what I'm saying is, if we look at policy and the cultural essence of most things, right? It's not just policy, it's culture.
I was trying to draw a distinction between the nature of progressive policy, like the Civil Rights Act, or Supreme Court decisions to overturn segregation, and white supremacist policy, like destroying Black communities. But the subject kept changing. Lucky for you, I actually made a video about Tulsa, Oklahoma's Greenwood District. It was definitely white racism that destroyed Black Wall Street and other Black communities through explicitly racist acts of state-sanctioned violence. This is why an accurate, full telling of history is so important. Black oppression and Black progress have always had a collective quality to them. Black people have been, throughout American history, targeted as a group, from slavery to Black codes to Jim Crow to mass incarceration to anti-inclusion efforts today. But we've also made progress by harnessing the power of collective action during Reconstruction and the Civil Rights Movement, and even today during the Black-owned business boom.
From LBJ, that's why you say we have these Negroes voting Democrat for the next 200 years. But all those policies have not done what they promised. Would you agree?
I would not agree.
So you think we're better off as Black people now than we were before LBJ passed those policies?
Yes, brother. We can vote without the threat of violence. Are you talking about the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Is that what you're describing as a negative thing?
I'm not saying the Civil Rights Act of 1964 I'm talking about.
That's LBJ. I just want to be clear. That's LBJ, who you said, were we better off before LBJ? LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
I'm talking about the war on poverty.
I just want to answer that one. I want to answer that specific one first. Was the Civil Rights Act of 1964 bad?
I agree with the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Thank you.
But at the same time, I'm also, put like this, I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery.
I don't know what that means.
What
Explain
it
more.
means is I would rather, given the fact that even back then we still had our families together, communities were stronger back then, I'd rather deal with the dangerous freedom of not knowing and controlling.
They literally weren't. They were literally more divided than ever. Like, people say people are so divided now. No, they're fucking not. They're divided because they're idiots and they're being pushed into division. What this guy is describing is literally isolationist, segregationist policy, dividing communities along color line. What the fuck are you talking about? Insane. White and black drinking fountains.
People with policies as much as possible versus the peaceful slavery of being married and tied to the government.
Given Trump's well-documented history of saying and doing racist things, I wanted to know how these black people could be drawn into Trump's political orbit. So I talked to Pastor Lorenzo Sewell.
Yeah, so anyone that wants to come to church, they're able to come. So when President Trump called, I thought about it like you calling me and say, hey, Pastor, I want to invite a friend to church who has 34 felonies. Hey, Pastor, I want to invite a friend to church who is a womanizer. Hey, Pastor, I want to invite a friend to church who could be a racist.
He's the lead pastor at a black church in Detroit that Trump visited earlier this year. And he was also a featured speaker at the RNC.
So all my friends back in Detroit who are Democrats, I want to ask you just one simple question.
I gave him a little stick for his trouble.
Like, nostalgia is an interesting thing as well, because the nostalgia that people are reflecting on is
fake.
Hollywood media, video games. It's literally Fallout. They're idolizing the pre-nuclear war Fallout world. That's what they want. They want that weird white picket fence American counter-Soviet propaganda bullshit. That's what they want. Everything has always been the same fucking way. Nothing's changed.
There's a jingle. It's from Fallout specifically, but in Fallout 3,
I've set him off.
no, I can't play it. I can't play it because it's going to be copyrighted, but I'm going to send it to you. In Fallout 3, you go inside a simulation, and the simulation is like the perfect neighborhood. So it's even like an idealization of that ideal world that's in Fallout. Like you're in a sitcom that's in the world of Fallout. So
interesting. Okay. I mean, sure, you can call it an advertisement. Sure, advertisement. Yes, it probably was an ad first, but they saw how well it works, so they took it, right? That's how propaganda works. Propaganda is not original. It's taking human nature and using and abusing it. That's all propaganda is. It's playing on your emotions. It's why Twitter works so well. It's why that fucking Twitter whitelist went crazy so quickly.
Yeah.
Because it perfectly encapsulated everything that everyone already speculated about.
But so, like, if you listen to this jingle, it literally is what you're talking about. Like, the imagery that it should conjure in your mind is exactly that dream you're talking about. Isn't it perfect?
Oh my god. Yes. Yes, and it's like a hovering camera flying through the house, following the family. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yes. Oh my god, it's still playing it.
It's like one
You
of the
can't
most
deny the
aged
power of
parts
God on this
the
man's
game.
life.
Yeah.
You can't deny that God protected him. Could it be that Jesus Christ
can deny
preserved
it,
him
though.
for such a time?
Yeah. Yeah, it was never that way. That's the thing. Like, people, I've seen video of the 50s. It doesn't look like that. Looks like it looks like now, just older. Melbourne looks like Melbourne, except more houses. Like, I don't understand. Like, there's no difference. In fact, I would say that the 50s houses were likely bigger, with a lot of empty, useless space that wasn't accounted for, with a lot of gross colors like greens and browns.
Time is this? Could it be?
He just realized I put his wood back and fixed the thing.
Why should Black people support the Republican ticket and Donald Trump specifically?
That's a good question. You know, what I would say to any Black person is this, specifically about the Republican platform. I would say, look, do your research, right? I would say, look back to 170 years ago in this state where a group of patriots stood up and they started that grand old party to stop the expansion of slavery. If a black person said, well, Pastor, Donald Trump is racist, the Republican Party is racist, well, let's play that theme out throughout history. Let's look at who was the party of slavery, who was the party of Jim Crow, right? Who's the party of the slave codes? Well, those are Democrats. Let's have that conversation. And when you look at when the Senate was integrated, those were black Republicans. When we look at Frederick Douglass, black Republican.
I think
so that's on the political side. Why I believe that a black American should be willing to look at the Republican platform in terms of my political convictions as a pastor, my conviction in my heart.
Yeah, it's like the American party system doesn't change at all, and it's exactly the same as it was in 1777. Yeah, post-declaration.
A black woman's womb is the most dangerous place for a black child to be. So, if a black American, specifically a black woman, my conversation would be, give our black babies a chance. Look at the Republican Party in terms of President Donald J. Trump. This is what I would say.
So,
Don't look at the container, look at the content.
But the only decent argument I've heard for abortion is the Kanye argument of like black babies are being aborted more than white babies. And it's like, you know, it's to keep our population down. While that is a fucking psychotic thing to think, it's a better excuse than anyone else has offered me about why abortion should not be legal.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure. Yeah.
Right? Don't look at the man, look at the mission. Right? Don't look at his past. Look at what your agenda is for your community in the future.
Conservatives are leading the charge to remove protections for voting rights, protections for maternal mortality, interventions in California, affirmative action, diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are all issues that pertain directly to the people that I know that you serve in your community. Why should they support the party behind the hindrance, the advancement of the very things that I know you stand for?
Sure. Black people that I know, that I represent, that I've had these conversations with, they don't want to be put in a position because they're black. There's not one black person I know that will say to me, Lorenzo, I deserve this position because I'm black.
But you know that that's not what DEI is. DEI is about fair hiring practices, opening up opportunity.
It's almost like it's a trend among conservatives to be concerned about their racial offspring.
Like creating pathways.
But you're smart. You're an intelligent man. And those that would say this, I believe they're very intelligent. It costs more money not to hire the person who's the best than to be racist. It actually costs more money. So if you're the best at what you do, right? And let's just say I'm a racist. So let's just say that, let's play that out, right? And let's just say, hey, there are 20 white guys that are not as competent as you, but I'm not going to pick you because you're black. It's going to cost me more money.
They don't even know that this qualified person exists, right?
Sure, I hear you.
The pathways are the problem. And a lot of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is doing is creating those and helping to clarify those pathways.
I think his argument
so framing
was
it
a
as
good
an unqualified.
argument. At the same time, I recognize it as fucking stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like he's got a much
argument,
more.
At least he has one.
Exactly. It's not just like Trump is cool. He's actually got reasoning behind why he thinks this way. Still dumb, but at least it's not a logical leap that just defies all expectations.
By person getting the job, when we know, you and I both know, that there are plenty of qualified black people or Latino people or women who don't end up with jobs.
100%. I agree with you. I do think relationships and proximity matter.
In his book, The Grift, Clay Cane details the history of how black conservatives have thrown black people under the bus to get ahead personally. From black Republicans like Isaiah
wrote the book called The Grift. Do you know about this guy?
No.
Booker T. Washington?
No.
Montgomery and Booker T. Washington to modern black Republicans like Clarence Thomas. Clay Cane makes the case that the modern black Republican is likely, if not assuredly, a grifter, a person who is doing that which is politically expedient rather than doing what is right, doing whatever they need to do to get that all expenses paid trip to fancy places. I couldn't help but wonder if some of the folks I was talking to fit that description. So I asked Pastor Lorenzo whether or not he was a grifter.
In my reporting, I've spoken to Clay Cane, who wrote a book about grifters, how sometimes black Republicans will align themselves with political power for their own personal advantage.
Sure.
What do you say to a person who says, hey, like, you're a talented, gifted person, but we didn't necessarily know who you were, but now you're speaking on one of the biggest platforms in the world tonight?
Quite frankly, I don't need another opportunity to speak. Has the Republican Party said, Lorenzo, we're going to write you a big check? No. If they did, it's just going to go right to the community anyway, right at the end of the day, because that's where my salary goes.
You've mentioned Frederick Douglass and others from the 1800s, early 1900s. In those times, black Republicans were elected by black people.
Sure.
Today, black Republicans.
So he's like
Exactly.
Frederick Douglass, except less recognized. But
Okay.
classic born as a slave
Mm-hmm.
became one of the people who helped abolish it, like Frederick Douglass did.
Yeah. Yeah. If yeah, exactly. Incentivize, make things cheaper, make rent for a 4-bedroom house reasonable, not $800 a month or a week. Sorry, fucking ridiculous. An hour and a half outside the city. It's stupid. Why aren't people having kids when you can't even afford to feed yourself? I wonder.
They're elected in majority white districts.
Agreed.
Why is it difficult, maybe even some would say impossible for a black Republican to be elected in a black?
That's a good question. You know what? I'm wrestling with that. I think the biggest problem is the Republican Party, in my opinion. They have, I believe, drifted from their roots in terms of.
Exactly. Like the fact that the origins of abortion is from eugenesis is not relevant to the conversation. It's beyond that now. It's like I bet you there's some shit that you can trace back to the Nazis that's pretty fucking good. You know what I mean? Like there's probably some medical thing that the Nazis did that nobody was doing at the time. Right? You can't assign political motive to a medical technology. Go ahead and clip it. I don't give a shit.
What did she say?
I said there's probably medical advances and shit that the Nazis did that are very useful today. Right.
Yeah.
Or
the guy who invented Zyklon B, unironically, his other inventions has saved the most lives out of any other medical invention.
What was it?
I believe it's the Heimlich maneuver.
Seriously?
I think.
That would be very funny. I mean, yeah, useful shit like bussing in cops from out of town so they're more brutal.
Of black people having authority within that party. I don't believe the Republican Party has learned well.
Oh, really? Hold on, let me enable it.
How to support financially those who are black Republicans that want to come out the closet. I equate it to being gay back in the 50s or 60s, right? Or even 70s. You didn't come out the closet then, like the movie Philadelphia, right? Because you could be ostracized. So it is with being a black conservative. We have been, the Lord has blessed our church. He's been very kind to us to really serve our community. However, me just having President Trump at our church, if I could play the voicemail, sir, these are the ones I haven't had time to delete. If I could send you the emails where it's like, really? I mean, people that I thought loved me, they're like calling me everything but a child of God. I'm like, hold on for a second. Can we have a conversation? Why are you like,
how does that make you feel?
I was a drug dealer. I was a street pharmacist, right? So.
What did you say? I don't know how to turn clips on. Sorry.
I'm trying to find the guy who invented it.
People that you love hurts. I have to be frank with you, But other people that don't know you, don't understand your motives, I get it. When tensions are high, motives are questions. And tensions have been high in our country as it pertains to politics. So people question my motives. I understand that. But for the people that love you, it hurts. It really does. And that's the reason why black people won't come out the closet.
A relatively small percentage of black people will vote for Trump this November. But I have a take and I want to share it with you. A more inclusive and racially diverse Republican Party could be a good thing. American conservatives and Republicans have made the lives of black people difficult on purpose. From the Southern strategy to welfare queens to anti-woke, anti-DEI stuff today, American conservatives have galvanized their white base by making the lives of black people harder. It could be a good thing to see more black Republicans if it means that the Republican Party is becoming actively hostile.
Fertilizer. So
fertilizer?
The main guy who contributed to synthetic nitrogen fertilizer, right? So he won a Nobel Prize for because he invented this process. It converts atmospheric nitrogen into pneumonia and hydrogen.
Huh.
So it's like how they pull the nitrogen out of the air to make synthetic fertilizer. That same guy who was a Jewish chemist, his research was later used to make Zyklon B. I don't think he did it himself.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So that's what it was. So he has saved more lives than he's killed, basically, because it was the wartime. Any chemist back then basically has their hands in chemical weapons.
Yeah.
To the racists who have called that party their home for the last 60 years at least. Make American politics inhospitable to racists. I'm all in on that platform. But the reality is that racists
need to tighten up that
Yeah, no, that is what their argument is for forced birth. And that's the thing is like, I think that any argument that isn't around that has a soul and God said it's bad is a more legitimate argument than any conservative has about why they want abortion to be banned. You know? And then even then, the people who say that it's a human life, I don't believe them that that's what they want. I believe that they actually want to police women's lives and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, it's more about controlling women.
Yeah, and it's like they literally are actually just evil.
Yeah.
Racists who have called that party their home for the last 60 years at least. Make American politics inhospitable to racists.
He really needs to tighten up that slogan.
I'm all in on that platform. But the reality is that racists...
a better way to 2A has a good one. Make racists afraid again.
Or at least racism enablers were present and accounted for at the RNC. They were given stage time, had exclusive access, and seemed central to the whole operation. And I'll tell you what did not feel central. Black people. I actually attended the Black delegate event during the RNC, and something really interesting happened. The event was taking place away from the main convention center. And in the middle of it, unexpectedly, former President Donald Trump's motorcade could be heard approaching the event from a distance. People have been having a great time before that moment, but you should have seen the excitement on people's faces when they realized it was Trump approaching their event. It really felt like this big moment of acknowledgement, the perfect punctuation in a banner year for Black Republicans. Journalists and news crews were scrambling to get into position to make sure they captured that moment when he comes to this event.
Also something that has
then
nothing
his
to do with
motorcade
what
just...
we're watching. I was reading back about the guy he invented the Heimlich maneuver. His first invention was basically the chest seal, how you can drain the wound.
No shit.
Because his inspiration came from seeing a Chinese soldier die from a bullet wound to the chest during World War II.
Huh.
A claim that was disputed. A medical assistant disputed it. But that didn't happen.
Drove by. It turned out he wasn't coming to the event.
Amazing.
It wasn't on his schedule. It just happened to be along his route.
He waved at us.
The disappointment for this group of Black Republicans was tangible and kind of poetic. And I think that's my big concern with the future of the...
I don't like the word poetic in this sense.
Wait, is this for Twitch or YouTube? Twitch. That we're doing this? Okay. I'm using all my peripherals except the one I need.
Republican Party. The RNC had quite a few...
Yeah, I don't think poetic is the right word here. I think, like, you can mock these people all you want for being sucked into the grift of the conservatives, but it's just kind of depressing. It's the same thing as seeing all these fucking losers spreading Russian propaganda. It's just depressing. Like, why are you just believing things? I don't know.
Drive by acknowledgments that Black people exist, but little to no substantive action plans for how they would show up and be present with and for this community. And if I'm honest with you, I think that's on purpose. The only way the Republican Party becomes this ideologically conservative but racially inclusive big tent party is if there is a fundamental rejection of the people and policy and practice they currently hold as sacred, near and dear to their political vision. As long as the GOP makes racial justice a political issue worth fighting against, a majority of Black people will never vote for the party. As long as teaching Black history is woke, as long as race-conscious solutions to race-conscious problems are demonized, as long as they commit to denying racism's impact on society, Black people, by and large, are not going to vote for them. But these guys may, and that might be good enough for them.
Have you done the Blitz stuff yet?
No. I've been exporting all the stuff so we have space on the drive to stream.
Money.
We can't stream if the stuff isn't exported. Maybe if you clipped them ahead of time, I would be ahead.
I have a single fucking day free a week.
I'm just saying.
A single day.
So, exactly. So I'm doing other shit that I have to do. That
Yes,
I can't
and
do
this
the
is
affiliate
about
stuff.
making money so we
Okay,
can register
but we
it.
can't stream if they're not there. It needs to be
takes
done in
5
order
minutes.
to stream.
Like,
yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm
In
probably gonna do it
1920,
tomorrow.
according to federal data,
Okay.
there were about 900.
okay, so next we can continue on to Trump stuff. We can go to Ukraine. We can go back to the RFK shit. Or we can hit China and the stabbing stuff and a lot of death, international death. What do we reckon? Yeah, the bots come in every now and again.
Yeah, I'll get it in a second.
It might be on the Jack one.
No.
No? Oh, it is on the actual proper one. I got it. Goodbye. Wait. Why can't I ban?
Because I already did it.
Ah, fair enough. Okay, my question still hasn't been answered. What are we moving to? We just continue to Trump?
25,000 black farmers in America, or about
Black farmers.
14% of all farmers. A century later,
Don't tell
there were
Steven
only
Crowder.
about 42,000, or about 1%. Much of that is a legacy of systemic discrimination in agriculture department programs.
Why are
Ali
you
Rogan
dancing?
reports on how the Biden administration is trying to help farmers who have been historically excluded from government assistance programs.
Do you want to be picked up
Today,
in
black
house like
farmers
Zapata?
own less than 1% of U.S. farmland, according to the Agriculture Department's latest farmer census. But efforts are underway to help these farmers reclaim their lost land. Last month, the USDA issued over $2.2 billion in payments to black and other minority farmers across the country. It's a move the department hopes will offset decades of discrimination these farmers faced when trying to secure loans. John Boyd is the founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association. Mr. Boyd, thank you so much for joining us. You yourself are a fourth-generation farmer. I'd like to ask you about the discrimination that you personally have faced over the course of your career.
The discrimination that I faced was more in-your-face, blatant type of discrimination. There are many black farmers in the area experienced. You know, I was called the
Like Steven Crowder
Yeah.
in your face.
Was Steven Crowder the one that said black people don't know how to farm? Who was that?
Oh, he's like, I'm gonna plant this corn. I'm gonna buy a plow, man.
Yeah, it's like, oh, are you just
And
conveniently
they're like, I didn't
ignoring
know you could
American
grow
history?
Hennessy.
Fucking hell.
N-word. I was spat on. I had my application torn up and thrown in the trash can in front of me. And this person that was responsible for making farm loans in my local county office would only see black farmers on Wednesday. So we named it Black Wednesday. When white farmers came in, he would bring them in, service them. And one particular year, this farmer Earl, he passed him a check for $157,000
That's not the only service they got. Gluck gluck.
in front of me. After he told me, a qualified borrower, that he wasn't going to lend me $5,000 of his money. This farmer walked out the door and he said, "Hey, Earl, I need you to come back in and fill out them papers because I used last year's numbers to make this loan." So here, this farmer hadn't even applied, and he didn't even process my loan application there in front of me. That type of discrimination put thousands of black farmers out of business. We've lost millions of acres of land because of blatant discrimination that we faced for decades. This went on for decades, unchecked by Congress, president after president. I visited with every president since Jimmy Carter to talk about discrimination that black farmers faced in this country. So a very, very long time.
And as you mentioned, these are systemic issues that happened all over the country for farmers like yourself. And of course, many farmers, yourself included, feel that these payments have been well overdue. Tell me about the journey that it's taken to get to this point.
Well, first of all, I'm proud to have led the fight that led to this $2.2 billion payout. These payments are timely for thousands of black farmers who are facing farm foreclosure. These payments are timely for farmers who can't pay their bills and send their kids to college.
The
And this
monetization
wasn't
page won't even show up.
black payout, the way that people are describing it.
It's
These
under
were
settings.
payments made
No, I'm in the settings.
No. It's under a different setting. It's fucking dumb. Give me a second. I'll find out. I'll figure out which one it is.
Black farmers and others because of the discrimination that we face at the hands of the United States Department of Agriculture. The very federal arm that was supposed to be lending a hand
The
up
affiliate
for black
onboarding.
farmers was
that's the one.
denying us the
Okay.
opportunity to farm in this country the way the white farmers did.
And I know you fought to get an additional $5 billion in debt relief, but that was held up in court by white farmers who argued that they were being discriminated against. Can you tell me about that?
When I first started this campaign 41 years ago, my farm was in federal inventory right along with many other black farmers. 120%, 100% for debt
I
write-off.
must say, I appreciate the 3 buttons open. It's a very baller move.
To be the special counsel, and you.
In 1920, according to federal data, there were
hands of the United States Department of Agriculture. For decades, this went on for decades, unchecked by Congress. President after farmers faced time.
Farmers like yourself in point.
These payments are timely for thousands of black farmers who are facing farm foreclosure.
There we go.
These payments are timely for farmers who can't pay their bills made to black farmers and others because of the discrimination that we face at the hands of the United States Department of Agriculture. The very federal arm that was supposed to be lending a hand up for black farmers was
So it's the
denying us the
whole ag
opportunity.
department that's fucking them over as well. I feel like this is bigger than just like PBS and alone. Like this should be a civil collective lawsuit. I feel.
Well, because you know how look at the grass, right? So all these people who are the farmers, they're literally descendants of the people who specifically stole the land and colonized it, right?
Yes.
So it's the farming industry is that systemic.
Yeah, it would be because they're not going to give up all that land, and if they did give up all that land, they'd be selling it off for millions.
Because land was power before actual wealth was power.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So you could be wealthy as fuck if you didn't have land, you couldn't vote. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. It was
So
tied to
the
land
landowners, especially farmers, are so powerful.
To farm in this country the way the white farmers did.
And I know you fought to get an additional $5 billion in debt relief, but that was held up in court by white farmers who argued that they were being discriminated against. Can you tell me about that?
Fucking God. Oh my God. It's literally the whole equality. What's the saying where it's when you're the oppressor, equality seems like oppression. Something like that.
Yep.
Whatever the fuck that saying is, it's literally that verbatim in court.
41 years ago, my farm was in federal inventory right along with many other black farmers. 120%, 100% for debt write-off, 20% to pay the taxes. We are still in court, in federal court, represented by Attorney Ben Crump that's looking to seek those $5 billion in actual debt relief. We didn't get it. It was blocked because white farmers were suing us in federal court around the country. They were successful in
I
two
hate
courts.
when they do that. The
Florida
United
and
States is
Texas,
at the top
putting a
instead of in alphabetical order, so I'm sitting here scrolling through trying to find it, and it's above Afghanistan.
temporary injunction in place blocking the $5 billion. I'm currently reaching out to the Biden administration, and I'm asking them to make that happen by executive order, the $5 billion, the same way that they've done for student loan debt forgiveness by executive order. So they felt the pressure of large-scale white farmers and basically said, hey, we don't want to move forward. We're going to do some other initiatives to replace that. But I'm steadfast and I'm holding my feet firm because land is the only way to pass down generational wealth. So the next generation of black farmers, my daddy and grandfather said, land is the only way to freedom. Every good and great thing comes from land.
I'm very disappointed he didn't say my daddy and my granddaddy like all fucking other Americans. Such an American thing to say.
Food to put on the table, timber to build a house, clean drinking water. And when you lose the land, people, you lose a part of your identity, you lose a part of your history. And we've lost in this country. At the turn of the century, we were tilling 20 million acres of land. We're down to 3 million acres of land. So we want our land, and I'm not going to give up the fight. By the grace of God,
I need a code from the Authenticator app.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have one of those?
Yeah, I've got it set up. I will send it. I was about to say it. We're streaming. I know it changes anyway, but you got like 10 seconds. before it changes.
Yeah.
You're good?
Mhm.
Going to bring relief for black farmers in the form of land ownership in this country.
Finally, the Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance commented on these payouts, and I'd like to play the sound for you.
The Harris administration, for example, handed out farm benefits to people based on skin color. I think that's disgraceful. I don't think we should say you get farm benefits if you're a black farmer, you don't get farm benefits if you're a white farmer.
What's your response to him?
Oh,
That he could
Face
say
the
that,
Nation. He
to
was on
our
Face the
nation's
Nation.
black farmers, the oldest.
I mean, that must be a different one.
Did we save it? Was it Meet the Press that we saved?
It was Meet the Press that we saved.
I fucking hate these. I'm convinced they are the same thing. How is this happening again?
That is very funny. It's 100% Meet the Press.
Occupation in history for black people in this country. We were slaves. We came
And
through
what did
on
we
Jim
just
Crow.
see?
We came through on sharecropping.
Was that
And to
Face
have
the
someone
Nation
who
we
wants to
just?
be vice president of the United States make those types
It's
of
so
comments.
funny that we
That's
should never
not the way
keep
the future-
track
that's
of
not
what
the way
one's which.
bringing this country together. But to have him say it was based on skin color when it was totally based on discrimination, and he knows that as a member of the Senate. So his comments to me are deplorable, and he needs to apologize to black people in this country and directly to black farmers.
John Boyd, founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, PBS.
To be the special counsel, and you can move forward with this case. Now, the reason that, and there's 81 pages here, the reason that Jack Smith's brief starts with the Constitution is because it has to. The Constitution is the thing that gives Congress the power to say, when it comes to certain members of our government, like the Attorney General, you have the power to appoint other people to carry out your duties. So that's why we begin with the Appointments Clause, and then we move on to what the specific statutory authority here is. And Jack Smith, in this brief to the 11th Circuit, spends, I think, dozens of pages saying.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?